I hit the go live button and go live.
Okay.
Okay, so usual things. We got the project submissions form. We have the content submissions. We have the weekly update thing that we were considering changing the name of. Then we're going to go over the restorative justice stuff. But that's not really just a regular thing. That's just something that's special to today. We do have a special guest today, so that's excellent. There are no new projects submitted, so that's that. The update. So there was. I mentioned this before in admin's private. We failed to have the. Well, I failed to post it for last week. We were discussing whether or not we should change how we go about that. How do you guys feel about changing that?
Changing what?
So instead of posting it like on the Saturday as like a weekly update, more like posting it perhaps just before our meetings on a Friday as kind of a summary of what's happened in the past week.
Sure.
So my idea when I was typing this in the chat room, right? I was like, listen, I know it sounds stupid, but in my head it's fantastic. All right, so let me elaborate. So like I felt like it was a lot of pressure, like when we were deciding who was gonna do the weekly update and be like, okay, it's your turn. You have 24 hours to figure out what the hell went on this week. And then make a nice update. I feel like if we rework it more so that you post it on Friday or right before a meeting, you change when you post it, whatever you want, but more like we're assigning an admin to pay super close attention to everything that happens this week so that they can make the update post. That way you can like have you can draft it as the week goes on if you want to, right? As you see stuff happening instead of making you sit down for 20 minutes and try to scrape together everything that you thought or may have gone on. More just make it a more like not necessarily involved process, but more of a rolling process. Instead of like pointing the finger at somebody and say go do.
Well, I mean, you're still pointing a finger at somebody and go do, but it's like go do over the entire week,
right? And have fun. Like maybe that's maybe it's the motivation that whoever is assigned that week to participate in stuff.
Now you have all of the weekend to become tired.
So just my thoughts. I don't know what you guys think about that. If that would be better or worse, or
I think that might work.
So okay, so I mean, if you guys want, so like Jaffa, I mean, technically, if you want to run the test run, you can post it for this previous week, and then we'll assign, as our third task, we'll assign next week's today, right? Does that make sense to everybody?
Sure.
Okay. So, I guess while we're at it, do we want to assign next week then?
I think that we should assign next week to you then. I mean, this is your idea.
No, yeah, I was gonna volunteer anyway. I was gonna volunteer anyway, because it's been a while since I did the post. So, but yeah, that also works. That's fine. Okay, Diesel. Okay.
Anything else to go over? The content submissions are also empty this week. We don't have anything new this week.
Content share. I guess this week should still be the emotes that Keldera made. I think
that's. I mean, I was obviously going to include those.
Kill stuff is so good.
I guess for you then, I guess it depends on what happens for your week, I suppose. Okay, that makes sense. Fleming's now online, so we'll see if he joins.
All right. Yeah, it should be here now. It's just a sec.
Okay. I'll write that up then about changing how we go about doing the summary. And that's all the things that we need to cover this week, isn't it?
Well, I don't think we should update that quite yet. We should do like a trial run and then see how that goes and then decide.
Right. Okay. Sure.
Okay, so then I think the only other thing on the list is gonna be the questions that anybody has for the whole restorative justice thing. So I'm gonna let Jaffa just run that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me. There you go. Okay, so we have a PhD student who has prepared some questions, some answers, should I say? And they are interested in looking to collaborate with us, collaborate with PortZero. And I think it would probably be best if they were to talk more and answer your questions. So if you want to accept the invite, the speaking invite,
Yes.
go ahead.
I got my hands full. Somebody could take care of it.
Yeah. Well, it says invite sent.
The invite is sent. Yeah, it's just to actually accept it and enter the speaking. There we go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear
Yep.
loud and clear.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. I popped last week, so I was here last week to say hi, but this week I just thank you for giving me the time. I think this is my first time to formally meet with you. I'd like to first give a short self-introduction. I know last week someone said they don't know how to pronounce my name. My name is Sijia. Yeah, just pronounce it the way you feel comfortable to. I'm a second-year PhD student at UC Berkeley. It's a school in the United States, so I'm currently in the United States. And I do research related to content moderation in the gaming communities. And right now I'm working on a project about applying restorative justice to help communities regulate. I've talked with Jaffa several times throughout the past year. And so he said there is a chance that I can share with you all about this model and look for opportunities to collaborate. So here I am. I actually prepared a Google Doc. I'm not trying to make things formal. I just think talking through a document which we can all see might help me illustrate what I'm trying to do. So if I want to share, where is a good place for me to put the link?
Admin's chats. General, I thought admins because like
The
Or admin meetings, the public channel.
okay,
yeah.
You just got pinged. Yeah,
thank
there
you.
go.
And also, how much time do we have? I want to be respectful of time. So I would. Oh, that's okay.
Oh, I mean, speaking of, we should probably also talk about team rep meeting.
You have 30 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think I will use up all the time, but okay, so I will start. This is just the note for myself, and I shared it with you. The first thing I want to talk with you about is my positionality as a researcher in the community. So I know I'm new to this community, and when I'm trying to do several projects, there are several things that I want to remind myself of, and I also want you to know, which is first, I respect the admins and community members' expertise I'm pretty new to this community, and you know much more about how this community is supposed to run. Well, I am trying to implement a new model. I want you to know that you always have the right to say no or share your concerns. I'm totally fine with that. Although I probably know a lot about restorative justice, but I do not know a lot about the community. So please feel comfortable. Please feel free to raise your concerns or say no or to slow things down. I don't imagine this is something that I want to immediately put forward. And also another thing I want to remind myself is do no harm, which means that when I'm trying something new, I want it to be helpful to the community. If it involves in high risk of disrupting the community, and I think I will try to discuss with you and try to find a better way to do that. And I will also try to find ways for me to be helpful to this community, because as far as at least a question that I always reflect is when researchers ask for things from the community, what can researchers give back to the community? I don't want to be that kind of person who just asks the community to help me without giving something or without helping the community. Of course, I hope my research will be something that's helpful to build the community. But at the same time, if there's any other things that I can help, I'm also willing to do so. Okay, so it's a long run, but I feel like it's necessary to told you those things beforehand because I really want to help this community. I hope my research do good. Yeah, I guess I can start with the second point, but before I start, do you have any questions or thoughts? It's also totally okay. I guess I didn't say anything very important.
No questions yet. I think we'd all really like to hear what you have to say about restorative justice and how it can be applied to online communities before we can come up with our own questions.
Sure, thank you. So then I'd like to introduce restorative justice. I guess Jeff already told you something about it. The principles of restorative justice, or I would like to start with how it's different from the current model. I'd say that the current way online communities manage follows principles from punitive justice, which means that if someone, I call them offenders, so if offenders violated the rules, they will be punished, no matter it's warning, temporary bans, or permanent bans. So those are punitive measures. And restorative justice take a different lens. When punitive justice thinks that harm is a violation of rules, restorative justice thinks that harm is a violation of relationships. And thinking about there's the victims in the harm and also offenders in the harm, restorative justice try to center the needs of the victims for reparation and support and healing, and try to help offenders understand their wrongdoing and take responsibility to repair the harm. This is different from punitive justice because in the current model, the harm is addressed through an interaction between the moderators and the offenders. Say the moderators will ban the offenders, but actually the people who are harmed are left out of the process. Especially for those severe harm, the victims actually suffer a lot. For example, somebody harassed. I'm not saying this is something that happened in this community, but for example, a victim has been severely harassed by an offender and they may need support. They also want to know what has happened afterwards. They may also want to get an apology from the offender. We think that all those things are absent in the current online communities because the online community only deal with the people who has caused harm. So we think there could potentially be something the communities can do more to help the victims of the harm. And at the same time, for the offenders, many online communities try to exclude them, for example, by remove the content they post or by exclude them out of the community through banning them. But there's another chance that probably we can also try to have a conversation with them to tell them what has gone wrong and what is needed to repair the harm. Usually, maybe people think that they know what has caused harm, but sometimes people just don't know how their behavior or words can impact others without the victims or others explicitly tell them that, hey, this is how you might have hurt people. Of course, by telling them it cannot change every offender. There are always people who intentionally cause harm. But to some people, there's a chance for them to learn the reason why they have caused harm, and potentially they will stop harming others in the future. So those are two things restorative justice try to accomplish, that centers victims' need and help offenders understand their wrongdoing. And the format of restorative justice outline is through something called victim offender conference or circles, which means that a restorative justice facilitator will facilitate a meeting between the victim and offender where they talk about what has happened, how does everyone feel, and what is needed to repair the harm. And the outcome of the meeting is usually an action plan. For example, the offender will give an apology to the victim or try to do community service, do angry control course. We have to think about how to adapt those practices online, but basically, it's not punishment, but something that benefit the victim and the offender to help them heal or help them go towards change. So this model has been applied in the offline scenarios, for example, in criminal justice. And I know Jeff have some experiences offline using or witnessing restorative justice. The question is, how do we adapt the principles and practice in the online scenarios? This is my research topic and something that I'm exploring. I have some ideas through previous studies, but I do not have chance to try out any one of those. And this is something that I want to accomplish with the PortZero community, which is how do we implement restorative justice in the community that can help address victims' needs and to help offenders understand their wrongdoing and take responsibility to repair the harm, which means that besides warning, muting, or banning, what else can we do to repair relationship between the community members and try to address harm in an alternative way? So this is the principle of restorative justice. I can go on with the practices we can implement with PortZero, but I want to pause and give you a chance to voice any questions, concerns, or anything that I can explain.
Oh boy. Okay. I, for one, am not really concerned about implementing these ideas. What I am concerned with is if this is the best community to try this out on, because honestly, because we are so small and so new, I don't think that we'll have any opportunities to try out this method for dealing with offenders.
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd like to figure out is also, so what kind of harm that happened in this community. So if I can ask a question, I wonder if for this community, does warning or bans or in general harm happen often, or are there any harm happen in this community?
I don't think we've had to give anybody a warning yet.
I think we've given like 1 or 2 warnings, but we haven't had to actually make any punitive action so far. Like beyond warning them.
I see.
Right, because it is just a very small community as of right now.
Mhm.
Even though as of right now it is a very small community and it will likely stay that way for a while and a long time. It's more that in the event that something does happen, we now have an option or a path that we could take where we can put something to use that's perhaps very unusual and groundbreaking. Obviously, it can be quite difficult to for example, if you've never had a job before, it's very difficult to get that first job, whatever that might be.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's pretty calm over here. Like now over in fucking OC and Hammerdown, I'm having to swing the manhammer like every day. Just about.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know. I think that's actually good. I'm glad to hear that this community haven't come across big issues. And that's also, I think, first, I think what I would ask for is when harm happens, maybe there's a chance to use restorative justice. But if harm doesn't happen now, the model doesn't have to be implemented now. I guess I just wonder, for example, in the future, when there is a harm that has happened, I guess that's the point where I will wonder if there's a chance for me to facilitate you in addressing that harm. Of course, I'm not actively looking for harm, but when harm has happened, I believe restorative justice can be helpful. But I think today is just a chance for me to introduce it to you. So when something happened in this community, you can think about restorative justice and think about whether it can help you to address the harm. So that's the way that I will put it. I guess I will, because I know Jaffa and now I know you, we can stay in contact, and when harm happens, I think we can have a conversation going from there. So that's one part. And another part is, I think restorative justice is actually not only about addressing harm. The fundamental thing it addresses is relationship. The first tier of restorative justice is actually community building. Community building just means something like building a sense of community and get people build relationship and care for each other. So when harm has happened, there's already a framework or relationship people has built so that it helps them to address the harm. So even when harm has not happened, restorative justice can be useful, but that's a different conversation, I would say. When I first try to introduce it to you, I'm thinking more about how to address harm. But right now, if harm has not happened, I can think more on how the community building restorative justice can help this community, and try to go from there. Because as you have said, this is a small community, and as I look at the community and how people interact, I guess I wonder if building a sense of community and how people collaborate is also a goal for this community. In that sense, I guess restorative justice can also be helpful, although I have to think more on it. But I just want to also present that perspective to you.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I guess if harm has not happened a lot in this community, what I would try to do is that I would just give you an introduction here, and I will think more on how I can try to use restorative justice to contribute to the community building of this community, and I can talk with Jaffa more about it. And I guess my question would be, thinking about harm has happened in this community. So thinking about there's a future harm that has happened in this community, are you open to using the restorative justice model?
I mean, I for one, I would absolutely be open to doing that, depending on the wishes of the victim, of course. So yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
that would be my big thing is making sure that the person who has had the offense happen to them is okay with that. You know, that's my big thing there.
Yeah, I really agree with Ashley and Diesel on those points.
Yeah. Thank you. So I can explain more on the model. I know it's probably far from happening, but I just want to give you a little bit of context. Even thank you for giving me the time to do so. So restorative justice is a voluntary process. So if we jump to point 4 in the Google Doc, so the process which works is first, the admin team will select suitable cases for restorative justice. So even in the offline world, not every case is suitable for restorative justice. the first point is it should be a voluntary process, which means that the victim and offender should be willing to use this process to address harm. If they are not willing, the process will also not reach a desirable outcome. So the voluntary process will make sure that this is a consensual process. And also for the actual process of victim offender conference, I guess we should also prevent further harm from happening in this process because, for example, if it's a heated conversation without any intervention, the victim and offender may go on quarreling with each other again. So it should be a process that needs facilitating. And I don't want to add more labor to this community without even knowing whether restorative justice can work or not. So what I would do is probably I can help with the facilitating process. And if the process is not successful, for example, the offender decide not to change and continue to harm others in this community, banning is still an option. I would say that restorative justice is just to provide an option to people who do not prefer punitive justice and to benefit them to meet their other needs that cannot be addressed in the punitive justice process. But this process is totally voluntary and it does not fit every harm. So it will be a case-by-case basis. I guess when harm happens, there will be a conversation where we decide whether we should go through the traditional process or the restorative justice process. I hope that answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, definitely. Like it looks to me like if we could use this for a case-by-case basis, if and when harm happens, and then see how that works out, that would probably be the best way forward.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I know right now because this community is pretty healthy and doesn't have any harm, it might be difficult to talk about how it can actually work. So I guess I'm asking for help here, I guess. So I want to have a chance to know and probably join in the process of addressing harm when you think restorative justice might help. So I guess that's my only request for now because I don't see any harm that can immediately use restorative justice in this community, and that's actually pretty good.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I guess that's all I want to say. And Jaffa, do you have any other ideas or anything you want to share?
No, not really. I think everything that I really think I could or should really suggest on this has already been mentioned or talked about. So I don't have anything new to add at all.
Okay. I think I've used 20 minutes. So I think that's all I want to share with you. And it's good to know you all. I hope in the future. So right now, I just want to say hi, I introduced the model. In the future, potentially, we can talk more when harm has happened. So I'll just say keep in touch. And thank you so much for giving me the chance to talk with you.
Yeah, no, thank you for offering up help for for implementing this model and for testing it out.
Okay.
All right, on to the next topic. What is going on with the team rep meeting? Anyone?
And in what context, I guess. Like,
The bi-monthly team rep meeting. I have no clue. I know we're supposed to be doing that bi-weekly. I know that doing it this week would have clashed with this meeting. Obviously, something that we'd like to do.
I think I think the one before that got canceled just because like nobody was able to actually make the time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we didn't agree on how to go forward with organizing it. That's true. It's definitely something that we should probably do. We should probably try to do it for next week, so that people have time to acknowledge its existence.
Yeah.
We should probably come up with like a few things to mention there instead of improving it again.
Yeah. I think the career fair is like a big one.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, the internal activation of the server.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, no, that team rep meeting was the last thing I wanted to talk about.
Okay, sorry. There's a dog chewing a squeaky toy in my ear, and it's a little hard to concentrate. Okay, so I think if there's nothing else, I think that brings this week's meeting to an end.
Yeah.
So the link to this meeting will be posted in the admin's channel. It's YouTube now, so the link won't magically stop working because YouTube doesn't delete VODs. Bless. And and we'll talk to everybody next week. So Diesel,
Yeah.
I'm gonna end the recording now. Do what you will, sir.
Oh, very good. I got a brandy going for you. There you go.
Thank you. See you guys next week.